If you're sick of the same old boring houseplants and you want some interesting and unique new plants that are easy to grow indoors, then this video is for you. Once you've been into growing houseplants for a while, you'll definitely start to notice that you're always kind of seeing the same stuff at most plant stores or at your friends' houses or wherever you are. I've certainly started to feel that way at times, so I've been trying to find less known and more unique, more unusual houseplants lately. And I'm going to show you what I think are the 10 best uncommon houseplants. These are weird looking plants, rare plants, and hopefully some stuff that you've never even heard of before. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you a plant that I have only recently just heard about myself and that is very unique and very uncommon. And not only that, but I found that it's also very easy to grow indoors, even in low light. So you're going to want to make sure you watch until the end for that one. Let's go. All right, I'm starting off strong out of the gate with the vanilla orchid. This really unique orchid is super cool and also very easy to grow, very easy to take care of. If you were wondering, yes, this is the actual vanilla bean plant. Most people don't know that vanilla actually comes from an orchid. And not only that, but this orchid is unlike any other orchid that you've ever seen before. It grows like a vine, so it really doesn't look like a typical orchid. It looks more similar to like a Hoya or something like that. It also has beautiful green and yellow flowers that bloom once a year in the springtime. To actually grow vanilla beans, the flowers need to be pollinated. So, if you're growing them inside, you would need to pollinate them yourself, which means that you'd need to get a Q-tip and go back and forth between the flowers, spreading the pollen between the flowers. But even if you don't want to try to get vanilla beans, they're just an awesome plant anyways. They're a really cool looking vine most of the year, and then once a year you'll be covered in these absolutely beautiful flowers. So you cannot go wrong with the vanilla orchid. I've actually got mine right here. So let me show you guys. Look at that. Just a beautiful plant, guys. Really nice. Really nice plant. I can't recommend it enough. So yeah, next up, I'm going to show you a really strange looking plant that looks like it's somewhere between a cactus and a tree. So you're going to want to check this out. Here we go. This next one is a very odd looking plant that is really not like any other houseplant that I have ever seen in my life. The Madagascar palm, it's obviously native to Madagascar, to the island of Madagascar off the coast of Africa, where a lot of cool, strange looking plants come from. Since the island is so remote and isolated, there are many species of not just plants, but also animals that are totally unlike anything else anywhere on Earth. These plants, the Madagascar palm, they basically look like a palm tree on the top half and a cactus on the bottom half. The top has long green leaves that look similar, kind of like to the leaves of a plumeria or a desert rose, but they are thinner and longer. The bottom half, though, has these huge thorns that are covering the entire trunk. And it's a very weird looking plant that looks like honestly, it looks like it comes from some other world entirely. I would love to visit Madagascar someday and see all these other strange plants that they have there. These plants, they do require a lot of sun, so make sure to put it in your brightest window. It can even take some direct sunlight outside. So if you want to speed up the growth of your Madagascar palm, you can even put it outside for the summer in full sun. Okay? So they're very easy to take care of as long as you have them in enough light. You need to have them in a very bright spot. But other than that, they're super easy to take care of. And, The one thing I will say is you got to just be very careful if you ever want to transplant one, okay? Because those are some big thorns. And I've tried to transplant one before, and it was kind of a scary process. Let's just put it that way. So, you know, just be careful when you're transplanting them. Put them in bright light, and they're an awesome and easy and super unusual looking houseplant. So, next up, I have got another really strange looking houseplant for you. And this one looks like something straight out of a Dr. Seuss book. So you're going to want to see this. All right, next up, we have the Zebrina alocasia, which is not only one of the easiest alocasias to grow indoors, but it is also one of the coolest. It has dark green, narrow shaped leaves, like a lot of the alocasias do. But with the Zebrina alocasia, it's not the leaves that make this plant stand out, it's actually the stems. This plant is also called the zebra alocasia due to the zebra-like stripes on the stems. This is it's very uncommon when it comes to houseplants that the stem is what makes the plant interesting, not the leaves. So the stem of this plant, it looks so cool, and then the dark green leaves make the stem really stand out even more in comparison. I just love these Zebrina alocasias, and I found that they are really not hard to take care of at all. Some of the alocasias can be quite hard to keep alive, but the Zebrina alocasia is as easy as it gets when it comes to alocasias. The most popular alocasia is the poly alocasia, the Alocasia amazonica, and that is often considered the easiest of the alocasias to grow indoors. But honestly, I think the Zebrina is just as easy. You got to just keep them as humid as possible, but not let the soil stay too wet, and they'll be easy to keep alive for a long time. But that is the key with alocasias, is to keep the humidity up. And honestly, alocasias are also very susceptible to spider mites. So I would recommend just spraying the leaves down constantly, wiping the leaves down, misting them down. And if you do that, you'll keep the humidity up, keep the plants healthy, and you'll keep spider mites away. And other than that, the Zebrina alocasia is a super easy plant and a super cool and weird looking plant. Like I said, straight out of a Dr. Seuss book, honestly. So, all right, next up, I'm going to show you a really awesome indoor tree. So, if you want an indoor plant that grows with the same kind of structure as any normal indoor tree, but it has really cool leaves that are really unusual and really stand out, stay tuned for this next one. All right, so when it comes to indoor trees, there is hardly anything better than ficus trees. From the fiddly fig to the rubber tree to the Audrey ficus, there are so many types of awesome ficus trees. But my favorite of all, it's got to be the yellow gem ficus altissima. The yellow gem ficus is basically a better version of the Audrey ficus. It's just as easy to take care of. It has very similar shaped leaves and a similar growth structure, but the leaves really stand out compared to the leaves of the Audrey ficus. The leaves have this beautiful green and yellow pattern on them that it's really unlike any other indoor tree. It's like having a work of art growing in your house. All right. Especially if you can get a big one that literally rises up above the rest of your house plants. It's going to look really spectacular in any kind of home and any kind of room. Just make sure you have them near a window because they do need at least bright indirect light. This is true of all the ficus trees. Whenever people have problems with with not just the Audrey ficus or the Ficus altisma, but Ficus lyrata, Ficus elastica, Ficus ali, any of these ficus, it's often a combination of they're too wet and they're not in enough light. Okay? If they're in brighter light, they're going to be able to absorb water more. So you need to keep them in bright light and you need to let them dry out in between waterings. But other than that, they are pretty straightforward, pretty easy to take care of. And like I've said, the Ficus altisma and the Audrey ficus are the easiest of all the ficuses to take care of inside. So you really shouldn't have any trouble with this one. If you've had any success with any other type of ficus, you'll be able to grow this. When it comes to these large indoor trees, the yellow gem ficus is one of the most uncommon, but I really don't know why, because they just look incredible and they're so easy to take care of. You can't go wrong with a yellow gem ficus. So now we are going to get into some of these really rare, trendy kind of collector houseplants. So if you've reached that level of houseplant mastery where you want that more rare, expensive, really special kind of houseplant, then these next few are for you. All right, this next plant is the rarest pothos of all time. And not only the rarest, but the most expensive, and for good reason. The Epipremnum Panamole is, it's not like any other type of pothos, and honestly, it's way cooler than any other type of pothos. The leaves not only have this beautiful variegation, but they also get very large and they develop fenestrations, which are the rips in the leaves or the holes in the leaves, like you'd see on a monstera. If you see one of these Epipremnum Panamole that's been growing for a couple years and has gotten pretty large, you wouldn't even know that it was a type of a pothos. It looks more like a monstera or like some type of philodendron or something like that. And I've found that if you want them to get really large, you really need to put them on some type of pole and get them growing upright. So they seem to be really happiest and healthiest growing vertically like that. The best thing to do is to use a moss pole, but using bamboo stakes or even using like a broken tree branch or something like that can look really cool. So if you're thinking of getting into this type of rare collector houseplant stuff, then this is a great one to start with. Next up, I will show you another of these rare collector houseplants that is also very easy to grow and also has an incredibly interesting and unique look. So let's take a look at that right now. So anthuriums are one of the most underrated houseplants and some of my favorite plants of all. Okay, so right now we're going to be talking about the Clarionium Antherium. But I just want to say, anthuriums in general are so underrated and are some of the greatest houseplants. They're very easy to take care of. They can grow in low light, and I think people need to put some respect on the genus of anthuriums. And a lot of people don't know that of all the different types of aroids, the genus of Anthurium is the largest of all of them. So a lot of these popular houseplants that we grow, such as pothos, monsteras, philodendrons, alocasias, these are all part of the family known as the aroids. And of all these different types of aroids, the Anthurium genus is the most diverse. There are the most different types of anthuriums of than any of these other types of plants. So there are so many different cool ones and so many that people don't even know about. And I think we need to put some respect on the name of anthuriums. So I just got to say that right off the bat. But today we are talking about the Clarionium Antherium, which just might be my favorite of all these cool anthuriums. So the Clarionium Antherium, it grows these large bluish, purple, almost black leaves that have a very unique shape, a very unique color, and a very unique texture. So they look almost glossy or like they're slightly reflective of light. So it gives them a very unusual look, but a really awesome look that is very cool and very unique, and is definitely something that if you're collecting some of these more rare houseplants, this is definitely one that you're gonna need. They also can do well in low light, so they're just a really great houseplant, and they're a great one to grow if you're looking to get into these more kind of collector, more rare, trendy houseplants. And while the Anthurium clarinervium and the last one I talked about, the Epipremnum Panamole, are both, they're kind of expensive because of how rare they are. But next up, I'm going to show you a couple more of these very unusual looking collector plants, two different types of philodendrons that both used to be quite expensive because of how rare they were and how unique these plants look. But now, as they've gotten more popular over the last few years, so many people are growing these plants that the price has gone way down. But here's the thing, guys. Even if these plants are not rare anymore, they're still just as awesome and as unusual looking as they always were. The only thing that changed is they're just not that expensive anymore. So, if you want two really cool, awesome, unique plants, two really unique philodendrons that are not going to cost you an arm and a leg, stay tuned for these next. The Ring of Fire Philodendron. All right, the Ring of Fire Philodendron is a really fascinating plant that has a very unique variegation. The pattern of the variegation, as well as the different colors of the leaves, are they're very unlike any other philodendron or any other plant at all, for that matter. They have these long, ridged kind of leaves that have speckles or large variegated patches that can be white, cream, red, orange, lime green, and all different shades of these colors. The amount of light seems to really affect what colors the leaves have and what colors are the brightest and what shades of these different colors are kind of coming out most. So I've always thought it'd be really cool to have two of these Ring of Fire philodendrons and put them in totally different amounts of light and see how different they start to look over time. The Ring of Fire philodendron, it's one of my favorite types of philodendron because it just looks so truly unique, and it's so cool and so colorful and so easy to take care of. And recently, like I was saying, the price has gone way down. You can get these for not that much anymore, where they used to be very expensive just a year or two ago. So the Ring of Fire philodendron is definitely a must buy for any houseplant collector. So another of my favorite philodendrons is the Painted Lady philodendron. These also have a really cool looking variegation, and they vary in color between yellow and dark green, and then every shade in between there. They also have these dark red stems that really stand out against the yellow and green leaves, and they give the plant a very unique look. One of the best things I've noticed about the Painted Lady philodendron is that they grow very fast, especially for a variegated plant, which often tend to grow rather slowly. So it has a really nice variegated leaf that grows quickly, and it's also fairly easy to take care of. So they're an awesome plant. You got to just make sure that they're in good light, which is true of any philodendron. You got to just make sure they're right next to a window, at least getting bright indirect light, and these painted lady philodendrons, they're going to grow huge in no time. They also look really nice growing upright on a moss pole. And while it's not totally necessary to do that, I would recommend it. Eventually, they'll reach a size where the plant grows long enough that it's going to just be easier and less space consuming to have them growing vertically. But if you've got the space, as they grow bigger, they'll kind of like create a little bushy shape. So you don't necessarily have to keep them on a moss pole. They're just going to take up less space, and they do look very nice like that. All right, next up, I'm going to show you a really fascinating cactus that's easy to grow indoors. It's great to grow in hanging baskets. It has beautiful flowers, and it's just an easy and really awesome plant to take care of inside. So let's check that out right now. Now we are talking about the night blooming cactus, or the queen of the night cactus. Okay, this incredible cactus has several different names. So I want to try to clear that up a little bit right now. There are many types of night blooming cacti, but the one that is most commonly grown as a houseplant is the queen of the night cactus. It is often referred to as a night blooming cereus cactus, but the queen of the night is actually not in the cereus family. But it is technically actually called the Epiphyllum oxypetalum. And it isn't actually closely related to the true night blooming cereus at all. Okay, so when we're talking about the queen of the night blooming cactus that is easily grown as a houseplant indoors, we're talking about the Epiphyllum oxypetalum. Okay, so just wanted to clear that up, if anyone even cares. But, anyways, the Queen of the Night is a really cool cactus that grows these long, flat leaves, which is why it's great to grow in a hanging basket. And like I mentioned before, it has these incredible, creamy, white colored flowers that bloom at night and are also very fragrant. They release this beautiful smell every night as the flowers open, and they usually bloom during the summertime. So, getting them into some higher temperatures will definitely help them to bloom a lot. So, if you have a good spot that you can put them into that you can put them outside during the summer, it will help the plant to bloom and to have a lot of blooms. But if you have a good, bright, sunny window inside, maybe a south facing window, it is possible to get them to bloom indoors, especially if you fertilize them a lot. So if you have a good sunny spot in your house that you could hang a plant in front of, the Queen of the Night cactus is an awesome choice that is very unique, has a beautiful flower, and is easy to keep alive. So I couldn't recommend it enough. We have made it to the last plant here, my people, okay? And like I said, this is a plant that I have only recently heard about myself. And at least in America, it's only become widely available very recently. It's a super unique plant that is easy to grow, and it's so new that I can guarantee no one that you know is going to have one. You're going to be the only one of your friends to have this plant. So let's check it out right now. All right, my people, we have made it to plant number 10. Thank you guys so much. I love you guys. If you have made it to number 10, thank you very much. If you haven't, please like and subscribe. And I'm going to be back soon with many more videos. But the best is last. All right, guys, the best. I saved the best for last. And we are talking about the Sperma Johnstonii. And of all of these plants that I have talked about, there are none that are more unique and none that are as new to the U.S. plant market than the Citrosperma johnstonii. Any of my viewers that are in Asia or Australia, you may have been familiar with this plant for a while. But for us here in the United States, it has only been available for a couple of years. These plants are native to the Solomon Islands, where they grow in wet jungle swamps, and they get massive growing in their natural environment. If you find one to buy, it's likely that it'll be quite small, and it will likely be in a 4-inch pot. But these can actually grow huge over time, even indoors. Naturally, the leaves can get up to like 3 feet long, and the plant can reportedly get up to 10 feet tall. Since they grow in dark swamps in fairly low light, there's no reason why they couldn't grow huge inside in lower light, as long as they're transplanted into bigger pots every once in a while and that they're kept wet. These plants have very strange looking shades of red that creep into the dark green leaves, and it gives them a super unique look. And not only are the leaves super cool, and not only can they get huge, but the stem has just an incredibly unique pattern on it as well. It has a really unique texture that's totally unlike any other stem of any plant that I've ever seen in my life. It almost looks like an even cooler version of the Zebrina alocasia, if that's even possible. It has a similar kind of pattern as the Zebrina alocasia, but it also has this really strange kind of spiky texture to it, and it's really similar to some type of alocasia in general, but it's like a cooler version of an alocasia in every way. The leaves, they get just as big or bigger than any type of alocasia. The color and patterns on the leaves are better than any alocasia that I've ever seen. And the stem is just bizarre and really, really odd and really cool looking. And so, this is just saying a lot because there's so many types of cool allocations that have cool leaves and cool stems, but this has just got them beat in every way, if you ask me. So these plants, they are just incredibly unique, and they're so interesting to watch grow over time as they get bigger. And they are truly like nothing else that I have ever seen before. They're amazing, and if you want the coolest new plant around, you have got to get one. So that is it, guys. That's the Citrosperma johnstonii. That is my list of the 10 best unusual houseplants, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you've made it to the end, thank you so much, and I will be back very soon. Love you guys.